In this video, I want to talk to you about 5 things that I learned from working for this Fortune 500 company. And this really could have been 5 things I learned from working in corporate America. But it is very important that when we work for corporate America that we have our eyes wide open to the possibilities, right? We see every year at least they're talking about a government shutdown, and we know that people's lives will be affected. We know that people's income will be affected. And so we want to make sure that we're paying attention, that we take care of ourselves, that we're not depending on the government to take care of us or our families. And the only way we can do that is we have to prepare ahead of time. And a lot of us are not. We have, our eyes closed. We're just going around in circles doing the same thing every single day, and we're expecting every 2 weeks for our paycheck to be in the bank. We're not expecting for the company to close. We're not expecting the company to go bankrupt. We're not expecting to get fired. But the truth is anything could happen at any moment, and we don't know anything about it. So what I know for sure is that the reason for it being in business is to make a profit, right? It just makes sense. A company would not be in business if they were not making money. It doesn't make good business sense. And with that being said, we have to realize that corporate executives are in, behind closed doors in boardrooms, and they're talking about how can we trim the fat? How can we make more money? How can we increase our profits? How can we do better than we did last year? How can we increase our bonuses? How can we cut the fat? So we got to be cognizant of that. We can't be blind to the fact that an organization is in business to make money, and that executives are talking behind closed doors about how can they trim the fat? How can they increase their profit? So these are 5 things that I learned from working for this Fortune 500 company. So just to give you context, this company that I worked for they had companies underneath, this big company, which was a multi-million-dollar company. And I worked for one of the companies underneath this big company, but regardless, this company underneath was still making multiple millions of dollars every single year, probably 9 figures easily. But I worked for this company for 12 years, had a contract with this company for 12 years. And what happened was I'm thinking that the company is stable. I have no reason to believe otherwise, right? And so all of a sudden, my paycheck stopped coming. All of a sudden, I'm working for this company. At this time, I had probably been with the company maybe 6 or 7 years, and just like clockwork, every single month I would get paid. Every single month I would get a deposit into my account every single month with like clockwork. Never saw any problems, foreseeable problems, never. And this is not just this one company that I work for, but this has happened. I've seen this happen since then, that companies are in trouble and their employees have no idea. Companies are losing money. They have, they have problems with, they don't have enough revenue. That's just the bottom line. But this took a company and worked maybe 6, 7 years. And then all of a sudden the check stopped coming. And then first I received a letter in the mail saying that I had to continue to work for this company until they got everything straightened out. And I'll tell you what happened in a minute. But that I was under contract that regardless if I got paid or not, I was supposed to work for this company. I was to continue to work for this company. I was shocked. I had never seen anything like this before, where you're under contract that regardless if they can pay you or not, you still have to work and serve the people that you signed up to serve every single day. And so this went on. So probably that's the first letter I received. The second letter I received was this smaller company under this huge company had filed bankruptcy. And while they were in the legal proceedings, they didn't have to pay anybody that was not an hourly employee or a salary employee. And I was considered to have a contract. So I was considered a contractor. So they didn't have to pay me, and I still had to work. So that was the first letter, was that I was under contract, that I had to work for them, whether I got paid or not, under this contract. And I never saw that in the contract, but that was one lesson that I learned, is that when you sign a contract with a company, always read everything. Always go over the fine print. Hire an attorney, because there will be things in the contract that don't necessarily make sense to you at the time. And then when you get into something like this, where they didn't pay me for 3 months, you're trying to figure out, how is this even legal? How can a multi-million-dollar company go bankrupt and not have to pay the people who are working for them, regardless of the capacity, right? But then, okay, so first I received the letter, and then the second letter was they filed bankruptcy, and the third letter was that maybe 60 or 70 days later, saying that they had filed bankruptcy, they were working on the proceedings. They couldn't pay us until they had been, until they had went before a judge and worked out some of the things, the kinks, or all the different things of bankruptcy for a company this size. And they couldn't pay us until after. So it took 90 days, 3 months, they couldn't pay us. And nobody knew, based on what I was told, nobody really knew how long it was going to take. They didn't know why it took this long, or, they didn't know how long it was going to be. And so this taught me some very valuable lessons. So just because you think a company makes a certain amount of money doesn't mean anything, right? Because a company could be cash poor. They could have more expenses than they have money coming in. Companies go through dips, right? If you look at your own business, or if you look at any business, you will see at points in the year where they make more money than other points in the year, right? They have ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And so sometimes a company they go through a down and they don't come back, or the down is so low they can't come back. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough revenue to carry them through these bad moments, especially when the good ones are not as good as they used to be, right? So this company taught me, first of all, that you should create a personal brand. It doesn't matter if you work for somebody else, if you're an employee, it doesn't matter. You need to create a personal brand. You should start building yourself an audience. You should start talking about things that are important to you. Every single person needs to have a personal brand, because you never know when you're going to need that personal brand to help you in some way. So create a personal brand. Talk about whatever you want. Just talk about things that are important to you, but do it every single day. Make it a commitment every single day to create a personal brand. Talk about the things that you like. Talk about what's happening every single day in your daily life. Talk about lessons that you've learned. This is something that I really love doing, is talking about evaluating my day, reflecting on my day, asking myself, okay, what did I learn? How can I be better? How can I apply what I've learned? Create a personal brand. The second thing is have a 12-month to 3-month emergency fund. So it's important that you're able to take care of yourself, that you're not depending on the government, that you're not depending on a stimulus check, that you're not having to go and work 3 or 4 jobs because your company can't pay you, or they laid you off or fired you, or whatever it is. You got to be able to look at it differently. You got to start taking care of yourself. You got to start saving your money, and you got to think about the future. So just because it's good right now, it's a great opportunity to save your money. If it's good for you right now, it's a great opportunity to save your money, because you don't know what the future holds. And I've seen all kinds of stuff, right? I've seen terminal illness. I've seen, a child get cancer, and one parent can't work. One parent is not the parent who can't work is the breadwinner. The other parent is working, but they're not bringing nearly as much money as the breadwinner. I've seen death that has caused people to be all 3, 6, 9 months. So you got to be thinking about the future. So have a 12-month or 3-month emergency fund. We can no longer live paycheck to paycheck. We can't be 30 days from being evicted, 30 days from losing everything that we have. We got to be thinking smarter now. We got to be thinking about, okay, you got to be thinking about your future. So what do I see for myself in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What do I have to do? Who do I have to become in order to get to where I want to be? So stop depending on the employer. Stop expecting your employer to be there for you all the time. Stop expecting to retire from this company. You don't know what's going to happen. And it's possible that the executives don't even know what's going to happen. So you got to be thinking about yourself. Stop depending on the company to take care of you forever. You got to depend on yourself to take care of yourself forever. I just want to mention this. I saw on Good Morning America last week that debt is up this higher this year than it was last year, maybe 4%. So Americans charge more money for Christmas, the holidays. They charge more than they did last year. So the American debt is up. And so we got to be careful with that. We got to be careful, because in a drop of a dime, we could be 1 week away from losing our job, 1 week away from, a downturn in our industry. So we got to be prepared. We can't just sit by and not do anything. We can't just borrow our way and expect things to get better, and we're not doing things ourselves. Not depending on your employer, but doing things yourself, becoming better yourself, becoming somebody better for yourself that could take care of yourself in the future. Number 3 is depend on God and not your employer. Depend on yourself to do the work. Depend on God to bring the increase, and not your employer. So we can't expect our employer to be our end all be all. We can't. We got to depend on ourselves to do the work. So whatever we're believing God for, whatever we're expecting to change in our life, we got to be believing God, but we got to be doing the work, and we got to be honest, right? Because a lot of times we're not honest with ourselves. We say, I'm doing the work, but nothing's happening. But the truth is we're just half doing the work. So we got to make sure that we're doing the work every single day, depending on God to bring the increase, depending on God to bring the results. But we got to do our part, and we got to stop depending on our employer. And then the last thing is be the best that you can be. And a lot of times we're not. We're just half doing. We're just doing enough. We're quiet. We quiet quitting. We're not doing what we could. So if we want a company to keep us on, we want to continue to work for a company, we want a company to work for us, we got to be the best that we can be. We got to constantly be investing in ourselves, showing up, being the best that we can be. And then everybody benefits, right? Because if I'm a good employee, if that's what I am, if I'm a good employer, then I want to be the best employer I can be. But as a result of me working on myself, being the best that I can be, I'm a better mother, I'm a better spouse, I'm a better friend, I'm a better daughter. So I got to work on myself. I got to be constantly working on myself, but I need to be the best that I can be. Not perfect, the best that I can be. So just some things to be thinking about. If you work for someone, you work in corporate America, or it doesn't matter what it is, whatever you're depending on your income for, is that you got to be mindful of taking care of yourself. You can't be dependent on one thing or one person. You got to have multiple streams of income. You got to have money working for you. And that's really the last one, is number 5, is you got to figure out a plan of action to get your money to work for you, so that you don't have to work every day for the rest of your life, that you're not dependent on Social Security or retirement, that you are Social Security, because you want to have money in other places. You want to have money kind of in different buckets, whether that's 401k, whether that's investments, whether it's real estate investing, if it's digital products, if it's something that will continue to make you money, residual income. So you got to be thinking about yourself and your future and what you can do to help yourself, and not be depending on one source, one stream of income. You got to create multiple streams of income, because if anything happens, you still have to eat. You still got to pay your mortgage. You still got to take care of your family. So these are just some things that I learned from being working for this Fortune 500 company. And it really, sheds light on really taking care of yourself, not depending on anybody else. And so the thing is, when we don't depend on other people, we can't blame them, right? The blame was for me. The blame was on me. It was for me, because I needed to make some changes. And I mean, when you go 3 months and you work for someone and you don't get paid, and you're counting on that money to pay your bills, it really hurts you. So just make sure that if you are someone who depending on one stream of income to pay your bills, you got to start rethinking things. You got to start stepping back and saying, okay, what do I need to change? How can I increase the streams of income that I have? How can I save more money? How can I reduce my expenses? You just got to ask yourself better questions, and then you got to start taking action. And then we can't blame other people if we don't. We just can't blame other people if we don't make the changes, because they're not responsible for our livelihood. They're not responsible to take care of us. We're responsible for taking care of ourselves. We're responsible for being the best that we can be, showing up the best that we can, and then taking care of ourselves and our families, not depending on somebody else. So just some things to be thinking about, what I learned from working for this Fortune 500 company.